As read the Jewel of Faramore. Hey, what's up? Long time no see, boys. It's dangerous to base an entire game, movie, book, or anything on a single joke, especially as a referential joke. Yet the developers of Arzette, the Jewel of Faramore, did exactly that. The Philips CD-i Legends of Zelda titles are many things, including a rare bashment on the brand and a laudering stock, but they are rarely referred to as the quality games. For some reason, CD-i Software, or it just got the pun, choose those three games of questionable quality and inspiration in particular, as there the Jewel of Faramore is billed as the spiritual successor to The Link, the Faces of Evil, and Zelda, the Wand of the Gamelon. But if they were aiming so bad, it's so good with Arzette, they missed the mark entirely. Arzette is just plain good. Well, the early steps into the world of optical media were perhaps the most awkward period of the games. While it was something harnessed for good rather than the evil games that resembled the period of normal fare with the extra voices and cutscenes, others tried to stop them full of terrible live-action cutscenes of FMB sequences barely resembling the game. Nintendo nearly entitled this market but bailed out at the last minute, leaving Sony, their first partner for the SNES CD-ROM attachments, Scorn and Philips, the potential successor, with a license to make a few games with the Nintendo properties. The result was the Hotel Mario and 3 titles based on Legends of Zelda. You probably heard of them since their internet fame propelled them to prominence. And both Link, Faces of Evil and Zelda, the Wand of Gamelon had animated cutscenes and combined straight-to-video animation with the Nightmare fuel. Characters are questionably voiced and scripted, and transitions were strange. And while the animation had to top the old moment, it had fewer frames that you expect. Every so often, an aspects of the game breaks always and once again enter the meme space. I even find myself eugeniously quoting the games, as read the Jewel of Faramore warps that style. It starts with a prologue narrated by a schoolmarm before going into an immersive festival of CD-i Zelda's uncomfortable animation. CD-i went the distance without edges, horrible zooms, and slighted voice acting. Underlying this is a soundtrack made from the extremely cheesy low-quality sampling. The strict progress into the gameplay, where the world is broken into the appropriate bite-sized stages, hand-drawn backgrounds clash against the basic collisions and flat characters. Enemies warp away with cheesy sound effects. Bits of the UI looks both ostentatious and unpolished. Azrette's goal is 12. She has to find the pieces of the infamous Jewel of Faramore to create Dynamore, the big evil. However, the darkness is covering the land, so she must also light beacons to push it back and get access to more areas. Beyond that, she also needs to get the items that allow her to proceed and become more powerful. That isn't much different from the early CD-i Zelda games, but the difference is that the Arzette doesn't stuck. The controls are responsive and the hit detection favors the player much better. More importantly, movements is much less sluggish. The levels are bigger and more open, which turns out to be a double-edged sword as you find yourself revisiting areas to plumb for secrets and find better gear. If you're going to 100%, you're going to be seaming the same level sections repeatedly. I finished with around 98%, so it obviously didn't bother me that much. That largely because when Arzette lifts heavily from a legendary Kusoj, it's more of an aesthetic than a crutch. The general framework of the Faces of Evil, Wand of Gamelon are here, but some of the rogue edges, aside from the aesthetics, are polished down. It feels to part like the spiritual successor that it builds itself as. Perhaps, most strangely, Arzette never really makes a joke of itself. It certainly references CD-i Zelda titles in a variety of ways, but always stubble and dry. Weird stuff happened, but those games in themselves aren't weird. The jokes in Arzette are amusing on their own. The bizarre zooms and extravagant movements certainly add an extra layer of humor to its bad puns and subconsciousness, but it isn't just pointing and laughing. It knows how to be funny on its own, which carries it beyond simple referential humor. It has heart and affection for those titles. Rather just to poke fun at them, it takes where it worked even if it was unintentional and expands on it. The actual moment-to-moment gameplay is almost too simplistic for its own good. There is so much more to than hopping around and smacking enemies, and it doesn't manage to capture the satisfying feeling one gets when they find an important item in Gather exploration game that gives you access to all of those things that were previously held just out of reach. On the other hand, the cheapest part of Metroidvania games, and I never felt comfortable when a game leans on the sort of essay trail, it's however what Faces of Evil and one of Gamel did, and expecting it would be abandoning part of the faithfulness. It is my face manifesto, so I can live with it. Speaking of which, the publisher Limited Run Games created USB reproduction of the CD-i controller specifically for this game. They sent me one, however, I didn't arrive on time, so maybe I will tell about it later. Well, I constantly find myself shocked that the passion of the Arzette, the level of Faramore, demonstrates towards its source material. It would have been so easy to create a low-effort duplication of CD-i Zelda games, but instead, CD-i created a game that is enjoyable beyond just the references it makes. The music and animation, despite being situated to emulate CD-i aesthetics, are well done. The characters, while often analogous to the weirdos from CD-i Zelda, are memorable and interesting. More importantly, its sense of humor managed to tickle in the right places. My own complaint, and a minor one, is that the gameplay is a bit on the basic side, being more important in the way it ties together to enjoyable the cutscenes. At around 4 or 5 hours of a completion run, it doesn't overstay its welcome. Arzette, the Jewel of Faramore, is such unjudgmental love letter to the Link, the Faces of Evil, and Zelda the One Gamelon. It's reminded that whenever not a game is good or bad isn't the whole story. It's more complex than that. The internet found legitimate entertainment in the CD-i Zelda games, and rather than write them off as a ridiculous CD-i dug in and asked why, it found what was so compelling about those astounding failures and applied these lessons in a thoughtful and deliberate way. The resultant set itself influencers and takes a life of its own. So, it's a great game. Impressive affords a few notable problems holding back won't astound, but it is worth your time and your money. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.